Good evening. This is Maestro Cretella with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a pretty close 2v2 on Medean Cliff Mines. Our first player right here is MyMe as this Orc Kommando Nob. The Orc Kommando Nob is a sneaky orc, can throw grenades, can shoot shotguns, this big twin-link custom shooter that's very powerful. He's got bombs and all sorts of stuff. Pretty crazy. MyMe, pretty solid orc player. His teammate, who we cannot select for some reason, is Ingo, playing as the Tech Marine. The Tech Marine is a Space Marine, ranged hero, can get a melee weapon now in the Elite mod, has a gun for every occasion, can build structures like turrets and relay beacons, and also synergizes very well with vehicles, possibly better than any other commander in the game. On the other side, we have Winkel as this big Grey Knight Bro Captain in Terminator armor. Look at that big four-sword. The Bro Captain is a tanky melee hero, walks right through cover, just as we saw there, just walking right through the barbed wire. He's a tanky melee hero, cannot be knocked down or suppressed, can do some area of effect buffs, as well as pretty good, just good melee damage and tanking later on. Finally, we have Maestro Cretella here playing as the Lord General, because I'm in command, that's why. The Lord General is a ranged hero, but actually works out very well in melee too. Mostly focuses on support. He does not have an ability to start out, but every single one of his war gears has an ability. Alright, so over here we see an engagement. Bad place for the Sentinel to be against a wall, blocking its escape route. I mean, sure, I'm repairing it, but there's also a Tech Marine, as well as some Space Marines right there. So, as you can see, I'm playing as Imperial Guard again. I've been doing this a bit lately, and it's actually something that has been working out very well for me. It's something that I tried purely out of curiosity, but it's actually working out a lot better than my attempts to branch out into other races, such as Orcs. Lately, I've even been feeling better about playing Imperial Guard than Eldar, despite the fact that I have a lot more experience with Eldar. I guess I've always just been a little scared of the more intensive micro required to play Imperial Guard, basically with the Sentinel, the Chimera later on, and I think because of that, I've just been afraid to try it. Now, what you can see I'm doing here, we have some Tactical Marines. They're trying to get in cover, but I keep smashing the cover with the Sentinel so that they can't get that cover bonus. What I'm also doing is tying up this Lord General. No, I'm not tying up the Lord General. I'm using the Lord General to tie up the Tactical Marines, and that prevents the Tactical Marines from firing. And I'm finding that that's actually a very good use of the Lord General, since he's actually pretty tough, certainly very durable. He can reinforce his retinue out on the field, which actually makes him very difficult to force off. And even though his melee damage is nothing special, he can still tie up units well enough. He can even do special attacks, which is pretty good. And right there, I think I came off pretty well in that engagement. Bleeding 2 TAC models, might even get another one, just a few more shots. No. On the other side of things, looks like Winkel, no. Let's see, Winkel did fairly well to start out. He did destroy the node on MyMe's natural power farm, and he did actually decap it. He does have, I'm actually surprised he did that, because he doesn't have a Purgation Squad as part of his build right now. He doesn't even have Incinerators on his Strike Squad, so that means he was just doing it with the DPS of the Bro Captain, the Strike Squads, as well as the Stormtroopers. I'm also surprised to see a double Strike Squad build out of him. I'm not sure why he does that. Unfortunately, I don't play Grey Knights much, so I don't have much insight into that. But we do see MyMe here has gone for a very typical Orc build. Double Sluggas into double Shooters. I mean, the way that build basically works, basically just that the double Shooters are a lot of range firepower to start out. It's just some of the best range firepower you can get in Tier 1. It's also very versatile, because you can use the suppression ability, aiming what's that, to counter a number of threats. It can be used as a melee counter. It can be used to allow your melee units to get into range of another unit. You can use it on range units just to stop them from firing, so that they are on the losing side of an engagement. You can use it to focus down tanky melee heroes, which we saw right there. So just a lot of uses for those double shooters. A big part of the reason why it's such a common build. I think it's actually going to work out well with the Assassin's Knife, as it's really called, on this Kommando Nob. since it will actually help him to get into melee. Now right here, do see... Alright, now we see Catachan Devils out on the field for me. I've really been liking those Catachan Devils. It's actually, I've been finding it's a very safe buy. Ooh, very close to wiping those scouts, so 2 scout models there. Very safe buy. You can use them for a lot of different things. Again, it's kind of like the Shooter Boys. Not a great comparison, but just in the sense that a lot of versatility there that comes from these Catachan Devils. You obviously just get the fact that they act as a secondary melee counter, just in case the stomp from that Sentinel isn't enough. You have the shotgun blast on the Catachans. You even have tertiary melee counters in the form of the Old Reliable, and even if they just get into melee, most units do not want to be in melee with these Catachan Devils. They actually do 20 DPS power melee per model, so that means they do 140 as a squad out of the gate. And then with those extra Sergeant upgrades and Demo Man upgrades, they'll be doing even more. We now have some Incinerators on both of Winkel's strike squads, so that will give him a lot of ability to bash generators. I guess that's what he's mainly going for with that build. And now he's using that strike squad and the Rhino in a way that I've certainly seen before, which is he has these units in the Rhino. Once most of the units get close to the Rhino, he will put them back in the Rhino, back up, and then have them start shooting again. Now, it's a little tougher right here, I think, with MyMe's build. He does have a Stormboy squad, which does 150 DPS power melee as a squad. So they're actually one of the best bets you have at countering the Rhino in Tier 1. The Rhino is a super heavy infantry unit. Before the Elite mod, no unit had super heavy infantry in Tier 1. So it is somewhat difficult to counter that. You need to be pretty creative because it's not always necessarily very clear. Now, one of the answers for countering it, or at least one of the potential answers, are those Storm Boys. Now, right here, my Sentinel got away with 8 health, just barely got out of there, actually took a grenade hit, which, a grenade in its escape path, which made it really difficult to get it out of there alive. So MyMe's pushing forward a lot. I think part of that may be one of the weaknesses that people often say about Grey Knights is that they have a lot of trouble dealing with melee, especially early on. So that might be why we see the Assassin's Knife on the Kommando Nob. And of course, MyMe could have gone for a build where he would substitute one of these Shooter Boys for another Slugger Boy. But as it is, he already has a lot of melee in the form of his Kommando Nob, the Slugger Boys, and the Storm Boys. So he might have still wanted the versatility and range firepower of having that dual Shooter Boy build, while still being able to put a lot of pressure in melee. Also, I think one of the reasons why this Assassin's Knife is a good choice is, as good as the Kommando Nob's starting shooter is, it is just a piercing weapon, so it won't be as good against the heavy infantry armor, especially not the super heavy infantry armor of this Rhino. Rhino now does have a heavy bolter. That means Winkel's in Tier 2, but he does not yet have vehicle armor for that Rhino. Now, unfortunately here, I've apparently lost my entire generator farm, which is very sad for us. So the red team the red team, meaning my team, definitely has a power disadvantage. Winkel over here might try to equalize things, but he does have to be very careful with Storm Boys jumping on his Rhino. The Rhino now does have vehicle armor, so it won't be quite as vulnerable to the Storm Boys, but it certainly won't be invulnerable to them. They are just a power melee squad with a very high DPS, so they will do some light damage now, even to the Rhino with vehicle armor. They'll do even more damage once they get their Nob, since the Nob will do heavy melee. Alright, so a lot of things are happening right here. Winkel uses a smoke bomb so that his strike squad can tank the damage, but a stun bomb from that Kommando Nob does stun both the strike squads as well as the Rhino. A bigger engagement going down here. The Guardsmen do have to be careful about those Assault Space Marines, but now we do have a Chimera out on the field. Will allow the Guardsmen to reinforce, but they're actually just going inside because they're very low on health. This could be the end of the Sentinel, however. Melta Bomb did go off. Stomp must be on cooldown, and the Assault Space Marines are trying... No, Stomp is not on cooldown. So I just barely, it looks like I actually just barely keep the Sentinel alive in that case. The tricky part is keeping the Chimera alive right now, starting to take fire from those missile attacks, but I actually use the Catachan Devils to tie up the missile attacks. So again, that's yet another one of the great use of the Catachan Devils. They're a great unit just for tying up, again, because they do a ton of damage in melee, even though you generally don't always think to use them as a melee unit first and foremost. I'd say first and foremost, you want to use their disruption abilities, keep units out, and then if you're just in that position, Shotgun Blast is on cooldown, Sentinel Stomp is on cooldown, you force melee with the Guardsmen, with the Catachan Devils, especially in that case. What I really wanted, so right there, I tried to help Winkel out. I did a stomp, actually got the stomp off on the Storm Boys, but it still killed them, so that did not work out that well for me. But Winkel's apparently putting some pretty good pressure on this lane. He's actually, twice now, he's managed to decap MyMe's natural power. That's been very helpful considering the fact that I haven't been able to keep a power farm up here, as well as the fact that I haven't been able to spend much to get more power. Winkel might be in a little trouble right now. His Rhino is going to get hit by a Melt-A-Bomb. I don't know, that Tactical Marine Squad might just be able to get there in time. They are chasing. Alright, up on this side, I'm trying to make up for that just trying to make up for my lack of power farm by bashing Ingo's. Looks like MyMe is just, wow, he just barely managed to keep his Rhino alive. So obviously we do have a lot of transport play from both of the players on the red team, me and Winkel. The Bro Captain now does have the Nemesis Force Halberd. That will make him very, very good in melee. 83.33 DPS power melee with 10 DPS splash. It's just going to make him very good, certainly whenever he gets in melee, and he'll have no trouble getting into melee with that teleporter pack. And he'll also act very strongly as a melee counter against the Storm Boys or the Slugger Boys. Storm Boys going pretty hard for this Rhino, but they just, at that point, if you keep pushing with those Storm Boys, you might risk losing the entire squad, so. Alright, over here. Now, I'm using the Chimera. Again, this is me playing the Imperial Guard. It's been feeling pretty good. My go-to purchase in Tier 2 has been the Manticore. As you can see, I did not do that here, in part because in the game we played before this, I actually just lost my Sentinel to MyMe's Kommando Nob. Oh, right here, though, I'm about to get hit by that barrage from the Tank Busters. Now, unfortunately, while I actually dodged most of that barrage, that did split my Guardsman and my Chimera, because the Guardsman got disrupted while the Chimera was backing up out of there. Catachan Devils have been hit by marked target, which means they will take more damage. That's an ability from the Tech Marine. It means he has Signum armor, and he is fully kitted out. Alright, Strike Squad. So MyMe is definitely keeping up the pressure, and now it's the red team with full generator farms and the blue team with really nothing. The blue team is at a bit of a VP deficit. We're at a lead. And right here, now I have my Guardsmen up front. Actually, look at the reinforce range that the Chimera has. So I'm really using right now my Chimera to support while my Guardsmen are really the ones tanking the ranged fire. They will, of course, bleed a bit. They will lose some models. They are very cheap to reinforce, though. I don't have them fully upgraded. They don't have their Commissar. So I'm only getting 2 Guardsmen for 19 requisition as opposed to 3 Guardsmen for 19 requisition. But even 2 Guardsmen for 19 requisition is cheaper than any other unit in the entire game. Winkel's in a little bit of trouble right here. I think he might lose his Rhino. Oh, that's really bad for him. But the Storm Boys, so Winkel driving over here now. And yeah, unfortunately does lose his Rhino. So those Storm Boys have been putting a lot of pressure on that Rhino. Even, again, one of the good things about the Storm Boys as a Rhino counter is that they can threaten the Rhino in Tier 1, and then they will actually still scale into Tier 2. Because they have such high DPS period, they will still be able to even threaten the vehicle armor, and then their Nob does heavy melee. It's now a 2-cap for the blue team. They have experienced some minor victories, taking out Winkel's Rhino. His Bro Captain is also on the floor right here. Ingo, meanwhile, using this combination of both the flame attack and the flame attack, as well as the missile attack, to bash generators. So that is definitely a very good generator bashing combo. The missile attack has a bit more versatility in terms of we do have commandos right now. They throw down a burn a bomb, just area of effect fire damage. Certainly could be pretty good against the guardsmen. I was particularly scared there that he might have followed that up with that ability, Love Dadaka, which allows you to pin whatever unit you've used the firebomb on. It allows you to pin them in that fire, which could be particularly deadly against the guardsmen. I would actually like to see how deadly that is, but I'm glad I did not see it in the middle of this game, since I'm afraid it could actually just wipe those guardsmen outright. Alright, so basic Chimera play. You drive your units inside. You have them get out basically once you need to open fire. And you actually put your units back in once they start being threatened. Certainly once a jump unit gets back in, you want your units to go back inside the Chimera. And here is our rocket run already. I did not realize I was that far. How many squads can I kill? Alright, so I think I only wiped one squad, took another one down to just the shoot knob. So I love that rocket run. One of the good things about this particular ranged blob that I have double guardsmen with plasma and Catachan Devils, is that it will do extremely well against Ingo's current infantry force. It's going to be doing just a lot of damage, bleeding those tack models. Unfortunately, we do have, let's see, that is a Venerable Dreadnought, so that's definitely going to be some danger to me. But luckily, I do have this Lehman Russ on the field. Already has the Vanquisher, so we'll be pretty good for kiting and damaging that Venerable Dreadnought. Meanwhile, Winkel, he lost his Rhino, so he decided to switch it out for a slightly better transport. Namely, this Land Raider Crusader has these huge Hurricane Bolters on the side, can suppress. Alright, so this Lehman Russ, I've been liking the Lehman Russ ever since. One of the things I used to always say about the Lehman Russ is that it's a tank. It's not a great tank, but it's a tank. And then I was actually corrected by someone on my channel, and I found out that it's actually a very good tank. And ever since I found that out, and ever since I've been playing Imperial Guard, I've been using it and loving it. Especially right now, a Venerable Dreadnought may not really have been a good choice, but I think Ingo made that choice before he knew that I had a Lehman Russ. So my Lehman Russ can basically just kite that Dreadnought, stay out of range while doing damage to it. Right now we also see that I got the Meltaguns on the Lord General. Actually, I love the Meltaguns on the Lord General. First of all, it's AV on a hero, which is always useful. And it also gives you the amazing fight... Is it Fight Harder? Yes, Fight Harder ability, which increases the damage. Basically just increases the damage of your units. And that's going to be very useful. Again, with the combination of the plasma guns, as well as Fight Harder, going to be bleeding those tack models very, very quickly. So MyMe has starting to invest in AV so that he has some hope of dealing with that Land Raider Crusader. He does have the Beamy Def Gun on a Luda squad, as well as Tank Busters. So he's got at least 2 sources of AV. The Storm Boys can also function as AV. He's upgrading to the rocket launcher on his Kommando Nob, so he's really going pretty hard for AV, since that Land Raider Crusader is such a huge vehicle. And we actually see it's taking a lot of damage. Look at the damage it's taking from those Tank Busters as well as this Kommando Nob. Now Winkel, he often goes for a lot of very similar builds, to be honest, and I don't mean this pejoratively. It may, if anything else, may be more of a reflection of Grey Knight's design. Basically, their limitations. They also just have a smaller unit roster. Period. Winkel almost always gets a Rhino, and he'll often get. Once he's in Tier 3, he's pretty much going for a Land Raider Crusader. Might be giving away his secrets, although they're not very secret. And he pretty much always gets this Land Raider Crusader over Terminators or Paladins. And it really seems like this is the better choice. It's doing very well, even only at 1,200 health left, but Winkel needs to be really careful. He's got Storm Boys behind it, 2 sources of AV in front. This actually could be a really bad news for the Land Raider. This might even be a dead Land Raider. I think it is going to be a dead Land Raider. Some disruption on the Storm Boys keeps them off for just a little bit longer. Land Raider Crusader just barely... No, is it just barely going to get out of there? There's still the issue of these Shooter Boys. If anything, I think the Strike Squad should push forward. But the suppression on that Land Raider Crusader actually saves its own ass, except for the fact that this infiltrated Kommando Nob might take a shot on it and kill it. One more shot, and that's going to be the end of that Land Raider. There we go. Wow. So on the other side of things, I actually did lose my Leman Russ. I didn't quite catch it on screen, but I do have some idea of what happened. Basically, the Venerable Dreadnought got in there, and I think once Stoicism was activated, he actually got a speed buff, so that was making it even harder for my Leman Russ to kite the Venerable Dreadnought, because it was actually going a lot faster. So, wow. The victory points are actually very low for MyMe and Ingo. They have a single cap, but only 42 VPs left. They are catching up, though. So Storm Boys jump in. They do stun once they have their Nob. That actually makes them very good for especially countering units like the Strike Squad. Just a very good heavy infantry counter. Storm Boys have huge base DPS. It's all power melee except for the Nob, who does heavy melee. And then they will stun the unit that they land near once they have the Nob. So for the most part, they can't really... they will counter most heavy infantry units very hard. And those units will pretty much have to retreat, or they will risk getting wiped if they don't retreat from the Storm Boys. As it is, Storm Boys look like they might get wiped. Catachan Devils a little low on health now, though. Getting hit by this Kommando Nob. The Chimera's also taking some hits, but now we do have... Oh no! Chimera's driving forward, and we also have an orbital bombardment, and I make the mistake of trying to retreat. So I think what happened there... Yeah, that was a really bad retreat for me. It was mostly a panic retreat. One of the great things, or one of the great ways to use the orbital bombardment is to use it where your opponent is, and then put the next bolts where you're in your opponent's retreat path. Because usually they'll see the beams, they'll start retreating or start backpedaling. And if you put it in their retreat path, it will actually catch them out of their retreat. And right there we actually saw it killed both of my guardsman squads. Now I'm actually going to replace my guardsmen instead of buying Casterkins or Stormtroopers or whatever. I've actually been... To the extent that I've been playing Imperial Guard, I've actually really been preferring to just get Guardsmen, even if I lose them. As you can see, I'm just buying two new Guardsman squads and replacing them. And I'm getting that because I actually want the repair support. I have a Chimera out on the field. It's going to be useless if I don't have repair support for it. And neither Casterkins nor Stormtroopers contribute to that synergy. So Winkel's trying to get a decap, but now our rocks. And of course, a new Land Raider Crusader for Winkel. Storm Boys jumping in again. But now the Bro Captain fully kitted out, Nemesis Force Halberd, Teleporter Pack, and the Holy Armor of Titan. That Holy Armor of Titan is a Tier 3 war gear for the Bro Captain. It does allow him to become invulnerable and makes his abilities have a 30% shorter cooldowns. A very good war gear. As with many of the tier... There aren't that many war gears in this game that are Tier 3 war gears. But Tier 3 war gears are often extremely good. We're talking about things like Emperor's Wrath, Purgatus or Purgatus, the Heavy Armor for the War Boss. Now over here, so it's a very low on VPs, 22 for the blue team, but they have the double cap. I'm actually coming over here to support Winkel, take on these Kommando Nobs, or just the Commandos. But they're losing far too many models. They do try to drop a Burn-A-Bomb, and I leave my guardsmen a little too long in that burner bomb, but I put them back in the truck, which is what you're supposed to do. My Chimera's level 2, by the way, which is pretty nice. I've been, in my attempts to play Imperial Guard, I've been a little hesitant to purchase the Chimera, in part just because it's something that's a little unfamiliar to me. And it's, again, something I was afraid to try just because I haven't really done it much before. Chaos doesn't really have a transport, so I'm not really used to transport play. But it's, again, something that's been working out pretty well. Not quite as hard as I thought it was going to be. And it actually feels pretty good. Another Land Raider coming very close to dying. Winkel needs to be careful with those Land Raiders. Ooh, Commando's very close to dying. Kommando Nob. Oh, that's just the Kommando Nob. I thought that was the Commando Squad with a Kommando Nob. But wow, and now it's a 2-1 for the red team. Winkel in a lot of trouble, about to lose his Land Raider, and only has one other unit left, including his bro captain. Over here, and yet another rocket run. Taking out some more of MyMe squads. Again, only got one squad. So those individual members of the orcs are very, very susceptible to the rocket run, but those orc knobs are quite a bit tougher. So that was the game. Pretty close one. Pretty good game. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.